Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to this particular session of your MMPC 005 subject number, and we will be beginning the session with your block 1, unit 1, that is collection of data. So, before going to collection of data, my agenda for the day is what we will be covering during this particular session. That is defining, we will be defining the collection of the data and its importance. What are the several types of the data and sources of the data, and several methods of collection of the data, and how can we plan the collection of the data process, and finally how can we ensure data quality and integrity. To begin with, exactly why we need data. Whenever we are having any decision to take, say for example, you are supposed to launch a product in the market. In such a situation, whether your product will be penetrating the market or not beforehand, you need to collect the data. So most business decisions rely on data, but the quality of the data depends on how it is collected. So when data is gathered without a defined process, it often results in gaps, inconsistencies, or results that are difficult to validate. So a transparent data collection approach helps teams to work with information that is accurate, consistent, and suitable for the analysis. So, basic elements that are involved in collecting the data properly involves specifying the type of the data that is required for the purpose, selecting a suitable data source like surveys, systems, or user inputs, choosing between the manual and automated collection method, deciding the frequency at which the data should be collected, and using tools that match the volume and nature of the data. So, defining the data collection and its importance. So, what exactly is the data collection? It is a systematic process of gathering, measuring, and recording information from relevant sources. It is conducted to answer the research questions which will be supporting your decision making ability and generate reliable insights. It involves collecting the right data in the right format from appropriate sources. So it acts as a link between the business question and the data analysis, enabling meaningful interpretation and reporting. So why does it matter? So it ensures validity, reliability, and data used for analysis and decision making. It provides accurate and relevant information for solving research and business problems. Your forms the foundation for meaningful data analysis and interpretation. It is widely Basically, the data collection approach is basically being used or applied in case of market research, in case of your healthcare issues, in case of the social science problems, and in case of your business intelligence. A particular product is penetrating the market, it is not being, what you may say, it is performing well in the market. So that sort of decisions are to be taken to take it. So for the purpose, we will be requiring the data collection. So what exactly the role of your data collection in decision making? It is number one is evidence-based strategy. That means whether you are to take a decision, so to support the decision that you are to making, for that we will be collecting the data. So data collection grounds decisions in facts, replacing assumptions, and strengthening strategic planning. And the data is collected to know about what exactly the trend of the, you may say, the drugs effect in the amongst the patients. That is, accurate data enables ongoing outcome measurements, trend identification, and performance evaluation. And basing on the data collection, you will be in a position to predict. High quality data improves predictive analytics and risk assessment for proactive policies and operations. So basically, it is being taken that 5 to 6% increase in productivity means if you will be collecting the data accurately and accessing the reliable data, then it will be increasing about 5 to 6% productivity in reporting with high quality data. Accurate, reliable data reduces uncertainty and boosts confident decisions. So basically, we are having two types of the data. One is your quantitative data and one is your qualitative data. By quantitative data, I mean the data which can be measured numerically, that is measurable, that is your height is suppose say 5.6 inches, that is numerical data. It counts ratings and frequencies from surveys, sensors, and transactions. They focus on quantifiable variables and are often analyzed using statistical methods. And suppose say we are collecting the performance of 50 students in a class or in statistics, or you may say the quantitative methods. So for that particular purpose, we have to take an examination and we have to record the scores of the students. And basing on the scores of the student, we will be in a position to say about the performance of the student, basing on what will be the minimum marks, what is the average performance, so on and so forth. So examples are test scores, the income levels, population counts, that is male, female, then categories, vagera, and the temperature readings. So during the summer season, which city is more, you may say hot, which is average, and so on. Whereas by qualitative data, I mean the qualitative data which are descriptive, those cannot be measured numerically. That is capturing subjective experiences, emotions, cultural phenomena, that is describing opinions and motivations via interviews, focus groups, and observations. So, open-ended survey responses and observational notes are responsible for, that means whether you are agreeing to a certain decision or not, or whether that particular guy, suppose say you are having a 50 students or 50 girls or 50 students, out of them how many are having long hair, how many are having short hair, how many are having black hair, how many are having is, what is the black hair, the construction of the student, vagera, those are your intelligence, those can be are your qualitative data. That is, you can speak well, you cannot speak well. The speaking, that is your qualitative data. So combine for better decisions. It is pair rich content context with measurable evidence for a fuller understanding. That is, for any problem to solve or to make a specific decision, most of the times we combine both types of the data to analyze and arrive at a better decision. And in addition to that, we are having two other sources of, or you may say the sources of the data. One is your primary data and one is your secondary data. By secondary data, I mean the data which has already been published. That is the annual reports which are already published, or the balance sheet of the company, or you may say the population data of the country. These are all your second, which are available in your reports, returns, and all. Whereas by primary data, the data that we are collecting by going to the source, that is, we are collecting from the source, collected directly from this for a specific purpose. The secondary data, it has collected for some other purpose, it has already recorded, but for our purpose, it can be of some use, so we will be referring that. That is our secondary source. But primary data, suppose say we have administered a specific drug amongst the 50 patients, and we want to know the what the effect impact of it, then we will be approaching each and every patient, and we will be recording the effect at each and every source. So your primary data advantage is it is custom fit to research. That means basing on your problem, basing on your purpose, you will be collecting the data according to your requirement. Whereas in the case of the secondary data, the data is already available, and that specific data, that is, suppose say the population of the Bhubaneswar, you might be studying some other things, or you might be requiring that how which population or which part of the population of your Bhubaneswar are preferring a specific brand of what is that you call refrigerator. So that in that case, population is already there. So you will be selecting the which area of the Bhubaneswar is highly populated, and basing on that, you will be requiring to go and approach. So you are approaching the secondary source, that is population of the Odisha. Okay. So drawbacks in case of primary data, as because you will be going to source to collect the data, it is time consuming, and you will be approaching the source, so it is expensive. Whereas in this case, it if you are basing on secondary data only, then as because the data is already published, it will be saving your time, it will be saving your money. You have to just collect the secondary data from the source, that is your may say your archives or your libraries and so on and so forth. Whereas the basic disadvantage in case of secondary data is, suppose say I am conducting a study during 2026, I may not be getting the exact updated data till 2025 even. So in that case, it may be outdated or less relevant. Okay, so basically always your primary data will enable you in making the accurate decisions. So primary data, how can we collect the primary data? The several methods. Method number one is survey and questionnaires. Surveys involve asking a series of structured questions to a large group of respondents. They can be online, via mail, or in person. You- That means, basing on your purpose, you will be preparing a specific set of questions called as your questionnaire, and you will be selecting a group of respondents, and you will be approaching those group of respondents maybe through online, that is internet, maybe via email, or nowadays it is WhatsApp, or maybe Instagram, and so on and so forth. Or else you can engage certain number of investigators, and you can give them the set of questionnaires, and each of the investigator may be going to the several locations and will be collecting the data for you. Or else you can be in a you can send them via post also. It is ideal for collecting quantitative data on attitudes, preferences, and behaviors. Suppose say a company is conducting a customer satisfaction survey to gather feedback on their products, then the company may go for a survey through questionnaires. Okay, this is the method number one to collect your primary data. How can we design? That is, surveys often include closed-ended. That means your survey questionnaire may contain set of questions. Those questions may be open-ended questions, or the questions may be closed-ended questions. By open-ended questions, I mean I will be asking a specific question, and depending upon the mood of the respondent, he or she can give their own opinion. Okay, like how do you find this product? If this is the question, then I may write another of my own minds. Whereas, suppose say I'll say whether the product is good, very good, excellent. In that case, the respondent need to make a tick mark on any one of the choices. And those sort of questions are called as close-ended questions. Okay. For instance, Likert scale or multiple choice are your close-ended questions for quantitative analysis. While questionnaire may feature, I've already said, open-ended questions to explore detailed responses. So delivery of this questionnaire include online platforms, in-person interactions, or postal delivery. And what are the basic strengths of this particular method? In general, these methods are most efficient for collecting the data from a broad audience and allow for statistical analysis. Okay, and limitations. Basically, if your questionnaire is well designed, if it is a balanced questionnaire you have designed, then you will be getting the response good, unbiased responses. But if it is poorly designed, then the responses will be biased and low response rate. That means if the questions will be involving certain questions which will be hurting my emotion or my personal this interest, in that case I will not be responding well. In that case, it is low response rates, and especially for online service, this affects the reliability of finding. So always the question, of course, we will be discussing through in a letter that how our questionnaires should be designed. Then the number two is my interview method of collecting the data. So these interviews involve direct personal interaction with participants to collect in-depth qualitative information. And researchers can explore participants' perspectives, experiences, attitudes, or behaviors. And basing on the interaction, you can be in a position to get his perception. You will be in a position to ask about their experiences, and you will be able to study their attitude, their behavior, etc. If you will be going in person and conducting the interview to collect your data. So these interviews again may be of three categories. Number one is your structured interview. Number two is your semi-structured interview. Number three is your unstructured interview. By structured interview, I mean, basing on the purpose for which I am collecting the data, I will be preparing the questions as in a number of questions in a sequence, and I will be approaching the interview, the candidate to interview. So it uses predetermined questions asked in the same order. That means in the same order that I have prepared, I will be asking one by one to the interview to candidate to ensure respondent to ensure my consistency. Whereas a semi-structured interview, this uses a guided set of questions but allows flexibility and follow-up probing. That means I will be preparing a set of questions, and basing on the response of the respondent, I may be in a position to ask another question. It may guide me to ask one more follow-up question. So in that case, certain questions are already prepared. So I will be asking the questions as per that list, but basing on the response of the respondent, I may be guided to ask one further question. Okay, a follow-up question to probe deeper into that particular problem based on the respondent's answers. Okay, it combines systematic approach of structured interviews with the flexibility of unstructured interviews. Okay, a non-structured interview, that means, is based on open-ended conversation, allowing deeper exploration. Okay, unstructured interview is a flexible interview method with no fixed set or predetermined list of questions, but the conversation is open-ended and informal, allowing respondents to express their views freely. Okay, then next method is observational method. It involves watching and systematically recording behavior, events, and interactions without interfering with the situation. It can be conducted in natural settings, real life environments, or controlled environments. That means types of observations: participant observation, non participant observation. The researcher actively participates in the environment while observing the behavior. On non-participant observation, the researcher remains detached and observes without direct involvement. In this, that means, suppose say a specific event that you are recording or you are collecting the data about a specific thing or specific purpose, you will be moving around in an environment, and whatever you will be observing, you will be noting it down. That is your observational method. That maybe you will be participating in. That means, suppose say I will be collecting the data on performance of a specific product, then I may be using the product or I may not be using the product. If I am using the product, then I am collecting the data on the basis of as a participant observation. If not, then non-participant observation. Okay, so it is in basic applications. It is commonly used in anthropology, psychology, and organizational studies to examine behavior and social interactions. The strengths of it are basically it captures behavior in real life situations, reduces dependence on self reported information, and limitation is that depends on me. That means the investigator who is collecting the data, I may be biased. That is number one limitation. Number two limitation is I don't have any control over the factors that are affecting the results. Then ethical concerns may also arise, especially in covert observations. Okay. Next is focus group. It collect qualitative data. This is the basically the primary data collection method which is used to collect qualitative data through guided discussions with a small group of participants. A moderator leads the discussion to keep it focused and encourage participation. The process is basically a focus group. It should involve not more than 12 participants. Discussion will last for 1 to 2 hours and guided by prepared questions or discussion prompts. It is basically, as in today's parlance, we used to do this online. So application, it is basically used for market research, healthcare, that means the effect of a drug or the impact of a drug, and social sciences studies to understand opinions, attitudes, and group behavior of a specific group. And its basic strengths, or you may say the advantages of this particular method, is it provides a diverse perspective from participants. It encourages interactive discussion and collective insights. The limitation is the dominant participants may influence the discussion. The small size sample size limits generalization of as because our group size is limited to 10 to 12 people. So the opinion of these 10 to 12 people, we are generalizing the rest. So this may not be the right generalization. And the dominant participant means, suppose say out of those 6 to 12, one participant is very dominant, he will be dominating all the rest, then the rest of the students or rest of the respondents will not be giving their opinion. In that case, our decision may not be accurate. So now, then the next method of collecting our primary data is experiments. This involves manipulating variables under controlled conditions to study cause and effect relationships. By cause and effect relationships or by causal relationship, we mean that between two variables, that whenever a change in one variable will be affecting the other, in that case we say the relationship between the two variables is cause and effect or causal relationship. So experiments are basically involve manipulating variables under controlled conditions to study the cause and effect relationships. This method is widely used in natural and social science research. Suppose say you are studying the problem like what will be the yield of the rice in 2026-27. In that case, it will be requiring several variations. That is rainfall, the pesticides that we will be using, the soil quality, and so on and so forth. So, what will be the effect of the rainfall on the yield of the rice? Or if the rainfall will rise and the pesticides will be, or you may say the pesticides will be less, what will be the relationship between these two variables? That speaks about the cause and effect relationship. So laboratory experiments, field experiments, these are the type of the experiment studies wherein we require the experiments. So conducted in controlled environments to ensure precise measurement and controlled variables. It is used to test of hypotheses in fields such as psychology, biology, economics, and management research. So advantages or when it will be more effective to provide strong evidence of causal relationships. That means suppose a particular car is to be sold, in that case the income level and the sale of the car are having a causal relationship. So it allows researchers to control extraneous variables. The limitation is it may lack real world validity and ethical considerations must be carefully addressed, especially when human participants are involved. Then case studies, that means suppose say you are conduct case studies involve in-depth investigation you require. In that case you are maybe conducting certain case studies involves an in-depth investigation of a specific individual or a group or event or organization. Suppose say so there are several cooperative organizations, so you will be requiring to study the or you will be requiring to prepare a policy for a specific sector of cooperative societies, say primary agriculture cooperative societies. Then in that case you may conduct the case study of a good working primary agricultural cooperative society, a mediocre society, and a what do you may say non-vibrant society. So on the basis of these three you may be in a position to formulate a good policy for primary agriculture cooperative society. In that case we have to study the societies, that is called as your case studies. It involves an in-depth investigation of a specific organization, in this case that is primary agriculture cooperative society. So this method aims to provide a detailed understanding of the complex issues within a real life context. So as because that society is already functioning, So it will provide you the detailed understanding about the society, what exactly the society is facing the problem in their locality, etc. and so on and so forth. Okay, the process is data is collected using multiple sources. In this case, as I said, the good working, medium working, and a very, you may say, defunct society. On the basis of these three sources, you will be collecting the data on the basis of interviews, your observations, their document analysis, that means their performance analysis of the societies, and on the basis of that, you will be making a records and reports, and on that basis, you will be in a position to arrive at the policy for that specific set of organizations. So the application is widely used in business, law, education, healthcare, research to examine unique or rare situations. The advantages, or you may say the strength of this particular method, is it provides rich, detailed, and holistic insights into real world problems. So you will be in a position to study about the exact or the entire situation of the organization or this situation for which you are making. Or you may say, suppose a specific law is to be reformed, or a specific education or course is to be revised, and so on and so forth. And limitations finding may not be generalized to larger populations, as because I am making a case study of primary agricultural cooperative societies in Odisha. So whatever formula or you may say policy I will be formulating, that may be applicable in Odisha only. To generalize in several other parts of the country, I may require to make a further study in several other states of the country. So it is time consuming, as because I will be making a holistic study of the entire problem. So it is time consuming and depends on the quality of collected data. That depends on how that particular organization is maintaining their data. As because over here I am making a study of primary agricultural cooperative society, so their accounts, their reports and returns, so whether they are ethically being maintained or not, that makes my quality of the data. So basing on that, my policy may affect. So how to choose means we have studied several methods of how can we collect the primary data. So out of those methods, which method is to be used for collecting the primary data for my purpose, that depends upon the basic objective or the purpose for which I am collecting the data. The method should match the purpose of the study and type of the information that is required, and nature of the data required. Decide whether it is qualitative data or quantitative data. Basing on that, I have to choose a method. And if I'll be requiring quantitative data, then basically I should prefer a method that is my survey and questionnaire, or else a case study method. Okay. And time and cost constant, depending on that also I may be requiring the data. That means if I'll be choosing the interviews and experiments, they will be requiring more time and more resources. The interview, the respondent may not be giving me the proper data whenever I'll be asking them the questions. So, depending upon that, my number of interviewers may exceed, and one interviewer may not be in a position to give me the entire information, or will not be able to give me the time to ask all the questions that I have prepared in one go. So I may have to approach once, twice, thrice, and so on. It will be requiring more time, more resources, and so is the case with experiments. the experiments. In first case go, it may not be correct. I have to repeat, and so on. And target population also affects your method. Consider the size, accessibility, and characteristics of the respondents. To suppose say your respondents are all learned, or they are or having more awareness. In that case only you can use your survey questionnaire method, else you have to choose another method. The level of accuracy required, choose the method that provides you reliable and valid data. So if you will be approaching the respondent personally, then only you will be getting reliable data. Then research environment, decide whether the study should be conducted in the natural setting or controlled conditions. If natural setting, then the information should be your survey, else the other methods. Okay. For example, if you are conducting an online food delivery complaint, it's increasing Swiggy or Zomato. In that case, your framework leads to interview with customers, focus group discussions, and survey of delivery experience. These are the three methods that you should integrate to collect the data for this purpose. Then, what should be? Well, I said no, we have to prepare a questionnaire for conducting our survey. So, what should be our what are the essentials of a good questionnaire, or how should we prepare the questionnaire so that it will work effectively? So it is basically a 7C framework, which will, that means your questionnaire should clearly specify the objective or the purpose for which you are collecting the information. And the questions that you are preparing should have the clarity of the language. So depending upon the respondent's mother language or respondent's understanding, your questions should have prepared simple and understandable to the any layman, and it should be comfortable for respondent. Okay, respondent should not feel awkward to answer your respondents, and it should be checked through. Means once your questionnaire is fully prepared, it is always advised that you first, before going to your field, you pre-test your questionnaire by taking a small group of people in your nearby locality. Okay, that is called as your pilot survey, and basing on the responses that you will be receiving from that small group, it may be required that you need to edit your questionnaire. Okay, so always your, you may say your effectiveness of your questionnaire or reliability of your questionnaire should be tested before exploring it, or before implementing it in large scale, or before executing it in your exact sample. So it is called as your pilot survey, and your questions should be very precise questions, and the questions should be in a specific order. That means personal, that means the personal information, then a bit more impersonal, and so on and so forth. And you should ensure your respondent that whatever information that they are providing through this particular questionnaire, the information about everything that they are providing should be confidential, and it is used for the purpose for which you are collecting the data. That need to be assured. That means the good questionnaire should be having a specific, that means at the very beginning of the questionnaire, the purpose of your study or the purpose of for which you are collecting this information should be well specified. And each and every question should be precisely given. And the Language of the question should be very simple so that everyone can understand it. And the question should be in a specific order so that the respondent should not feel uncomfortable. And your questions should not contain such that they will be feeling embarrassing to give you the information. So no personal or very personal questions should be there. And you should ensure the confidentiality. That means you should, at the very beginning, you should give the assurance to your respondent that whatever the information that you are collecting through this particular questionnaire about that particular respondent are confidential, and it will not be leaked for any other purpose, or it will not be shared for any other organization, and it will be used for the purpose it is collected, and it will be kept confidential at your level only. And before executing or before implementing this particular questionnaire in your sample, it should be pre-tested. That means taking a small set of people or a small set of respondents in the nearby location, you check your questionnaire, and depending upon the respondents, you may be required to re-edit certain portions of the questions. Okay, then next, how can we design a good questionnaire? Your objective or the purpose should be clearly defined. Okay, then what all information you require, then draft your questionnaire. Then after drafting your questionnaire, arrange the questions in a sequence, and after arranging the sequence, you check through your questionnaire so that all sensitive questions or ambiguous questions or composite questions should be removed, avoided, and before making it final, make a pilot survey, and basing on the pilot survey, if required, you may edit certain portions of your questionnaire and then make it final and execute. Then, are the questions simple and clear? Before going for ahead, you should check these things. Are the questions simple and clear? Are only relevant questions are included? Is the order logical? Will the respondents feel comfortable answering or not? Whether the questionnaire is short and easy to complete, and whether the question has been pre-tested. These are the things to be checked and rechecked before executing your questionnaire. Next is our secondary data. By secondary data, as we have defined already, it is refers to information that has already been collected, processed, and published by some others. This type of data can be sourced from existing research papers, government reports, books, statistical databases, and company records, and it is often used to support new research questions or to provide context for primary data collection. Okay, so before going for anything, suppose say regarding your cooperative movement of the state, so you have to study what exactly the present status of it. For that, you need to approach to state government and collect the report about the performance of the cooperation department, and basing on that, you may think about that which sector of the societies are performing well, which are not, and so on and so forth. So your secondary data collection involves using pre-existing information gathered from the purposes other than the current research, offering a cost-effective and efficient way to gather insights. The sources of your secondary data is published sources, that is your government publications, academic journals, that means many other researchers might have done such studies for other countries or other states. You may use those, and books and are common sources of your secondary data. For instance, your census data, economic surveys provide reliable statistics for research. Okay. Suppose say your eighth financial commission is required to what? Revise the salary income slabs of Government of India employees. So for that purpose, your income, you may say, they will be studying about the present market conditions, the present inflation level, the present GDP, etc., before going further. So those data will be available for the economic survey that your finance department publishes every year. So that provides your reliable statistics for the research on the income of your people. So on published sources, sometimes suppose say we will be requiring to conduct certain studies, and but the data is not published, which will be available from the internal company documents. Like you may say, memorandum of association of the company is required to study about or to make what all, how can the company's activities may be expanded. For that purpose, we require to study the memorandum of association of the company. And that particular memorandum of association is the internal document of the company. So I need to access that if I will be conducting a consultancy report for the company, to give them the consultancy to how, what expansions that company need to do. So those, for that I have to access the internal company document, that is here their bylaw in what it is called as. Or else I may be requiring certain inputs from the university theses. All the theses they don't publish, so those will be available in the university libraries. So I may be required to access those, and private records. And suppose say at present, suppose say the basic problem in the state is, in our state, Odisha, is the, in case of farmers, they are unable to sell their produce. That means they are facing a lot many problems in procurement. So what are the those that paddy procurement records? Those are not public. So we need to approach to the government departments to get the records, and why the farmer is facing such a problem. I need to access that department and access the several collector office to get the data and analyze the things. And certain websites, online resources also available, that is websites, blogs, and online databases like Google, Scholar, Gesture, or offer a wealth of information that can be utilized for searches. Okay, so methods of collecting the secondary data. How can I collect the secondary data? The number one is my archival research, which involves exploring historical records, legal documents, or organizational archives to extract relevant data. In each and every state, we are having state archives, which will be providing you historical records. And in each and every state departments, they are having their own libraries, which will be providing you their activity reports of several years, which provides you the several data that is required for your purpose. And legal documents or organizational archives to extract your relevant data. And if you are conducting any certain research or a specific study, then whether those sort of studies, or how can you arrive at that specific problem, or how to identify your problem. So before identify your problem, you have to make many studies on the specific, you may say, your domain area. That is otherwise called as your literature review. And the next is your content analysis. This method studies qualitative data such as your text, images, and videos to extract meaningful patterns and themes. And one more, that is your meta analysis, which will be providing you the aggregates and synthesizes quantitative data from multiple studies to broader conclusions. Okay, so what we have covered so far, that is what exactly we mean by data. We require our data for making a certain decision. Why I require a certain decision? If I am having a specific purpose, suppose say at the present I am having it is lunchtime, I want to have some food. So in the nearby locality, what are all the good restaurants available and which restaurant will be providing what sort of food? That again is also my data that I'll be collecting before approaching. Okay, so the data, basically the data are of two types. One is quantitative data and one is qualitative data. By quantitative data, I mean the data that which I can measure in numbers. That is my quantitative data, that is height, weight, and so forth. And another one is my qualitative data, which I cannot measure, which will be basing on the quality, that is whether what is the color of the car, that is the quality of the data. Okay, so and the qualitative data or the quantitative data I can collect from two sources. One is my primary source of data, one is my secondary source of data. What is my primary source? If I will be collecting from this source, when I am approaching the source and collecting the data. And if not, its secondary source means the data which is already published. So we are having several methods for collecting my primary data, and we are having several sources from collecting my secondary data. What are my primary sources of the data collection? One is my survey of the data, that is if I want to study the performance of the product that I have launched or a company launched in the market, then I'll be making a survey. And or suppose say the census that is at present it is going on. So each and every enumerator is going approaching each and every household to collect that particular data. So this survey data is collected or a questionnaire through questionnaires. So that questionnaire may be a questionnaire that you will be going in person, or question you will be mailing it, or you will be making an online approach through questionnaire to collect the data. Okay, then the next, so while design or further the step by step collection of your primary data, maybe first of all you decide your purpose for which you are collecting the data. Number one, design, then you design your questionnaire, that purpose, then you decide what sort of information or the data that you will be required. Then number three is after deciding about what sort of information you will be collecting, then you decide how much of it is your quantitative data and how much will be your qualitative data. So basing upon that, you first of all draft a questionnaire. Okay, So while drafting the questionnaire, we should be careful about deciding the language of the question. That should be very simple, it should be very concise, and the language should be such that it should not hurt the emotion of any of the respondent. Okay, then after drafting the questionnaire, we need to test it before executing it in large scale. Okay, so when testing, that means I will be selecting a small portion from the sample in which I want to make the study, and I will be pre-testing, that is called as pilot survey. So basing on the respondents' responses in my pilot survey, I may be required to redesign or edit my questionnaire. So after making it final, I will again decide whether I will be making it in person or I will be mailing it or I will be posting it through mail or WhatsApp. So how many I will be going in person, how many through mail, how many through online, and so on. And after executing my questionnaire, after in administering my questionnaire, I will be collecting back the responses that I have administered through questionnaire. So basing on the responses that I have received, then I may check. I have to check my questionnaires for whether for its completeness, for its consistency, and for its relevance. Whether the respondents, whatever they have provided, are consistent. That means, suppose say one of my question is whether the respondent is married. If he said yes, then the next question is the number of children. Suppose say he has said he is not married, but in the number of children he has said 4. In that case, this is my inconsistency. I have to check for that. Okay, we have to check for our completeness, consistency, and relevance. According to that, we have to, again, if it is not proper, then we may be administering it again at certain points. Okay, and after collecting, we will be keeping our questions with us. So again, before administering, I have to decide again 2 things. One is whether I will be enumerating or whether I will be administering it in large scale or in a small sample. So if it is large scale, then it is population. And if it is in the small, that is amongst that large, I will be selecting a small, that is called as sample. That means my entire set on which I will be making a study is my population, and I will be selecting a set out of that is called as a sample. So I have to decide about whether I will be administering at a large scale or on a small scale. So this is how we can collect our our primary data. Okay, and number 2 is our secondary data. That is, the secondary data can be collected through several resources, that is archival, literature reviews, content analysis, and meta-analysis. So this is what is called as our collection data. Why we are collecting our data, what is this role of the data in our decision making, and what are the sources of the data, and which source can be collected, in using which method, and how can we decide the method of collection. This is what is the coverage that we have made today. I feel I am okay. So, thank you.